A family party's glow hides a shattering truth. David Brooks, adopted, is no son to them. Betrayed, he flees to Portland's wild waves. Will he forge a new self in the city's pulse, or be lost to the shadows of their lies? The backyard hums with life, a patchwork of laughter and clinking bottles under strings of fairy lights that sway in the Ohio breeze. The smell of grilled burgers and charcoal hangs heavy, mingling with the faint sweetness of Linda's prized lilacs. It's the kind of evening that feels like summer's last stand before autumn creeps in, and the Brooks family is out in full force, celebrating 40 years of Robert and Linda's marriage. Neighbors, cousins, and old friends spill across the lawn, their voices rising over the crackle of a bonfire. At the center of it all is David Brooks, 35, lean and weathered, his flannel shirt rolled to the elbows as he flips burgers on the grill. Sweat beads on his brow, not from the heat but from the weight of keeping this night perfect. David moves with the quiet efficiency of a man who spent years making things work. He's the eldest, the one who fixes leaks, hauls firewood, and chases after his nephews when they get too close to the cake. His hands, calloused from years in construction, are steady as he stacks patties on a platter. Around him, the party pulses. His brother Chris, loud and red-faced, argues about football with a cousin. Sarah, his older sister, sips wine and scrolls her phone. Emily, the middle sibling, laughs with her husband as their kids dart through the crowd. Sophie, the youngest at 16, hovers near the dessert table, sneaking a cupcake when she thinks no one's watching. David catches her eye, winks, and she grins back, the only one who seems to notice he's here. For David, this is just another night of holding it together. He's been the family's backbone since he was 18, when Robert lost his factory job during the recession. College dreams were shelved as David took up a hammer, working overtime to keep the lights on. He rebuilt the garage when a storm tore it down, bailed Chris out of debt, and babysat Sarah's kids so she could finish her degree. At 35, his life is a ledger of favors given, a one-bedroom apartment cluttered with tools and toys left by his nieces and nephews. He doesn't complain. It's just how things are. But tonight, there's a flicker of something else in him, a tiredness that runs deeper than sore muscles. As he wipes his hands on a rag, he overhears Linda, his mother, boasting to a neighbor about the family's big plans. 40 years, can you believe it? She says, her voice bright with pride. We're doing it right this time. A trip to Hawaii, the whole clan. David's ears prick up. Hawaii. The word conjures images of turquoise waves and beaches he's only seen in magazines. A break, maybe, from the grind. He lets himself imagine it just for a second before turning back to the grill. The crowd quiets as Robert, gray-haired and barrel-chested, clinks a fork against his beer bottle. He stands at the head of the picnic table, Linda leaning into him. Her smile is polished as the pearl necklace she's worn since their wedding day. Folks, we got something to say, Robert announces, his voice carrying the gravel of a man used to being heard. Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii. Another party, but with sand and sun. A real celebration for 40 years of this. He raises his bottle to Linda, and the crowd erupts in cheers. Chris whoops, Sarah claps, and the kids shriek about surfing. David feels a jolt of excitement, his first in months. He sets down the spatula, steps closer to the table, and asks, casual but hopeful, "What time's the departure?" The question hangs in the air, simple, unassuming. But Robert turns, his gray eyes narrowing like David's just asked something absurd. The table falls silent, a beat too long, and then Robert speaks, his voice loud enough to carry across the yard. "You don't need to know, David. You're not coming." The words hit like a fist. David freezes, the spatula still in his hand, grease smearing his fingers. Linda snorts, a sharp little laugh, and waves her hand dismissively. "You're not one of us, David," she says, her tone light but cutting. "Not really. You're adopted, you know that. The trip's for family. You stay here, watch the kids, keep an eye on the house." The crowd shifts uncomfortably, some looking away, others staring. Chris coughs into his beer, Sarah busies herself with her phone, and Emily whispers something to her husband. Sophie's eyes widen, her cupcake forgotten, but she doesn't speak. David's stomach drops, the world tilting under his feet. Adopted. The word echoes, sharp and foreign. He's 35 years old, and no one's ever told him. Not Robert, not Linda, not his siblings. His whole life, every sacrifice, every late night, every dollar he poured into this family was built on a lie. And now, in front of everyone, they've stripped him bare, reduced him to an outsider, a servant. His face burns, not with shame but with a raw, searing betrayal. The fairy lights blur, the laughter fades, and all he hears is the crackle of the bonfire. Like his world catching flame, he tosses the spatula onto the grill, the clang sharp against the murmur of the crowd. Without a word, he grabs his jacket from the porch and strides toward the gate. Sarah calls after him, "David, you okay?" But her voice is half-hearted, drowned by the chatter picking back up. No one stops him. The screen door slams, and he's out, boots crunching gravel to his truck. The party carries on behind him, as if he was never there. In his apartment, a cramped space smelling of sawdust and motor oil, David sinks onto the couch. The walls close in, cluttered with reminders of them. A wrench from fixing Robert's truck, a dinosaur toy Sophie's nephew left behind. Adopted. The word churns, rewriting every memory. He thinks of the years he gave up, college, travel, a life, for a family that doesn't claim him. He's not their son, not their brother, just a tool they used until it suited them to cast him aside. The anger rises, hot and fast, but beneath it is a bone-deep grief, a hollow where his identity used to be. He pulls a duffel bag from the closet, hands shaking as he stuffs in jeans, a few shirts, his work boots. No plan, just motion. He checks his savings, a thin stack of cash from overtime, and finds a bus schedule on his phone. A 5 a.m. departure to Portland, Oregon. A city he passed through once, years ago, its docks and waves stuck in his mind. A place where no one knows him, where he can be someone else. He hesitates, thumb hovering over Sophie's number. She's the only one who ever seemed to see him, but now he wonders if she knew, too. He doesn't call. The clock ticks past 3 a.m. He slings the bag over his shoulder, locks the door, and walks into the night. The air is cool, the streets empty, and his chest tightens, like he's betraying something. But he keeps moving. The bus station is a dim glow in the dark, and he hands over his ticket. The driver, a tired man with a gray mustache, doesn't ask questions. David takes a seat near the back, by the window, and watches Ohio shrink away. Gas station, hardware store, the house he thought was home. The bus rumbles on, carrying him toward a city he barely knows, and for the first time, he feels the weight of his own life, heavy but his. If David's story is hitting you hard, do us a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that cut deep. Drop a comment with your city. We might give you a shout out next time. Special thanks to Lisa from Chicago for the love. Stick with us, because David's journey is just getting started. The fluorescent light in David Brooks' apartment buzzes faintly, casting a cold glow over the cluttered space. The clock on the wall ticks past 3 a.m., its sound swallowed by the hum of a distant train. David sits on the edge of his couch, duffel bag half-packed at his feet, the word adopted still burning in his mind like a brand. The revelation at the backyard party, his parents' cold dismissal, the crowd's silence, has left him reeling, his life unraveling like a frayed rope. He stares at a faded photo tacked to the wall. Him, maybe 10, standing between Robert and Linda at a county fair, their smiles wide but distant. He'd always thought it was just the way families were. Now he wonders if they ever saw him as theirs. His phone buzzes, shattering the quiet. Sophie's name lights up the screen, and his chest tightens. She's the only one who's ever seemed to get him, the kid sister who'd sneak him extra cookies or ask about his day when no one else did. He hesitates, thumb hovering, then answers. "David, where are you?" Her voice is small, trembling, like she's been crying. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They said you're not coming back." He leans back, closing his eyes. "I'm at my place, sophomore. I just I can't do this anymore. There's a pause, then a sob. I didn't want to keep it from you, she says, barely audible. I knew about you being adopted. They told me when I was 12, said it wasn't my place to tell you. I'm so sorry. The words hit harder than Robert's at the party. Sophie knew. His ally, his confidant, the one person he thought saw him as more than a fixer, had carried the same secret and said nothing. You knew. David's voice cracks, raw with disbelief. All this time you let me believe I was. He trails off, unable to say it. I wanted to tell you, Sophie pleads. But Mom said it'd hurt you, said it was better this way. I didn't know they'd do this, David, I swear. He clenches his jaw, the betrayal sinking deeper. Even Sophie, with her soft eyes and quick smiles, had chosen their parents over him. I gotta go, he mutters, hanging up before she can respond. The phone drops to the couch and he buries his face in his hands, the weight of it all pressing down. 35 years of a lie, and no one thought he deserved the truth. He's still sitting there, numb, when a knock rattles the door. It's Chris, his younger brother, standing in the hallway with a manila envelope and a look that's half pity, half impatience. You didn't have to storm out like that, Chris says, stepping inside without asking. Made a real scene. David doesn't look up. What do you want, Chris? His brother shifts, uncomfortable, then sets the envelope on the coffee table. Mom and Dad sent me. They're willing to keep helping you out. Rent, whatever. If you sign this. David opens it, his hands steady but his pulse racing. It's a legal document, a waiver of inheritance rights, stating he relinquishes any claim to the family's assets. In exchange, they'll cover his expenses, keep him tethered to their needs. A contract to stay their errand boy, nothing more. You serious? David's voice is low, dangerous. Chris shrugs, avoiding his eyes. Look, you're not, they're real kid. They're just trying to keep things fair. You've got no claim legally unless they say so. Sign it, and everything goes back to normal. Normal. The word is a knife. Normal is David working himself raw to pay their bills. Normal is babysitting so Chris can party, so Sarah can climb her corporate ladder, so Emily can play perfect mom. Normal is David as the ghost in their family, invisible until they need something fixed. He shoves the papers back at Chris. Tell them to shove it, he says, standing. I'm done. Chris grabs his arm, his grip tight. Don't be stupid, David. You walk away, you've got nothing. No family, no money, no place. You really gonna throw it all away over this? David yanks free, his eyes blazing. I didn't throw it away. They did. You all did. Chris steps back, muttering something about regret, but David's already turning away, zipping the duffel bag. The door clicks shut behind his brother, and the apartment falls silent again, save for the clock's relentless ticking. David doesn't sleep. He finishes packing, boots, a jacket, a worn sketchbook from high school he hasn't touched in years. His savings, a few $100 from overtime, won't last long, but it's enough for a bus ticket. Portland, Oregon. A city he drove through once, its docks and bridges lit up against the dusk. It felt alive, free, nothing like the suffocating grid of Ohio. He books the 5 a.m. departure, his fingers trembling on the phone. Part of him wants to call Sophie to hear her say she didn't mean it, but he can't. Not now. Not after she chose their lie over him. The bus station is a haze of flickering lights and stale coffee. David slumps in a plastic chair, bag at his feet, watching the horizon gray with dawn. The other passengers, a tired mother with a sleeping kid, an old man with a duffel like his, don't look at him. He's invisible here, too, but it's different. No one expects anything from him. The bus pulls up, a hulking gray beast, and he boards, taking a window seat. As it rumbles out of town, he watches Ohio fade, the diner where he'd grab coffee with Sophie, the hardware store where he'd buy nails for Robert's projects, the house he'd thought was home. It's all someone else's now. The road stretches west, endless fields blurring into hills. David leans his head against the glass, the vibration steadying him. He thinks of the waiver, the way Chris called it, fair. Fair would have been telling him the truth at 18, not 35. fare would have been thanking him for the years he gave up. His eyes sting, but he doesn't cry. He's done enough of that. Instead, he pulls out the sketchbook, flipping through old drawings. Ships, waves, things he dreamed of before life buried them. Portland's out there, waiting, and for the first time he feels a spark of something like hope, fragile but real. The bus crosses state lines, the sky lightening to a pale blue. David closes the sketchbook, tucking it away. He's scared, no question. Scared of being alone, of failing, of never knowing who he really is. But he's awake, too, like he's been sleepwalking for decades and finally opened his eyes. The family he thought he had is gone. But maybe that's okay. Maybe he can build something new, something that's his. Portland greets him with a damp chill, the air sharp with salt and diesel. The bus jolts to a stop at a terminal near the waterfront, and David steps off, boots hitting pavement. The city sprawls before him, cranes looming over docks, boats cutting through the gray water, horns blaring in the distance. It's loud, chaotic, nothing like Ohio's suffocating quiet. He slings his bag over his shoulder, squinting at the skyline. No one knows him here. No one expects him to fix their messes. For the first time in years, he breathes deep, the weight on his chest a little lighter. He's alone, but he's free. The Portland skyline juts against a dawn sky, all steel and glass kissed by the first light spilling over the Willamette River. The bus jolts to a stop, and David Brooks steps onto the pavement, his boots heavy, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The air smells of salt and diesel, sharp and unfamiliar, a far cry from the stale warmth of Ohio. Around him, the city wakes. Horns blare from distant bridges, seagulls will over the docks, and cranes loom like silent giants. It's loud, alive, and for the first time in days, David feels a flicker of something new. Not quite hope, but close. He's 35, a stranger in a city that doesn't know his name, and that's exactly what he needs. His first day is a blur of survival. He finds a room to rent above a dive bar, a shoebox with peeling paint and a mattress that sags in the middle. The landlord, a grizzled man with a beard like steel wool, takes his cash and hands him a key, no questions asked. The bar's bass thumps through the floorboards every night, but David doesn't mind. It drowns out the thoughts that creep in when it's quiet, Sophie's trembling voice, Chris's smug offer, the waiver that tried to chain him. He drops his bag, sits on the bed, and stares at the cracked window, the city sprawling beyond. He's here, but now what? Money's tight, so he hits the streets looking for work. Portland's docks are a maze of warehouses and coffee shops, and he lands a job at a hole-in-the-wall cafe called the Rusty Anchor, packed with fishermen and delivery drivers. The manager, a wiry woman with a buzz cut, tosses him an apron and says, "Keep up or you're out." David's never poured coffee for a living, and his first shift is chaos. Spilled trays, wrong orders, curses from the counter. He grits his teeth, learning fast, his hands moving like they did on construction sites. It's grueling, but it's clean. His mess, not theirs. That's where he meets Maggie. She's at the register, all sharp edges and quick jabs, her voice cutting through the din like a foghorn. "You're slow, new guy," she says, smirking as David fumbles a latte. He shoots back, "At least I don't scare the customers." She laughs, a real one, not the fake kind Linda used to brush him off. Maggie's different, blunt, unapologetic, with a tattoo of a compass on her wrist and stories about hitchhiking across the West Coast. She doesn't tiptoe around him or expect him to play hero, and that's a relief. After shifts, she lingers, tossing him tips about the city, where to get cheap tacos, which streets to avoid after dark. He doesn't say much, just listens, but it's the first time in years someone's talked to him like he matters. Days blur into a week, then two. David's routine settles: wake, work, crash, repeat. The cafe keeps him busy, but the nights are harder, when the bar's music fades and his thoughts turn to Ohio. He hasn't heard from anyone since Sophie's call, and he tells himself he doesn't care. But he wonders about her, if she's mad or just sad, if she told Robert and Linda he's gone. He checks his phone sometimes, half expecting a text, but the screen stays blank. The family's probably in Hawaii by now or planning to go, and he pictures them. Robert barking about luggage, Linda fussing over sunscreen, Chris and Sarah arguing over flights. They've moved on like he was never there. The docks become his refuge. After shifts, he wanders the waterfront. The waves slamming the piers, the air thick with salt. One afternoon, he passes a pawn shop, its window stuffed with junk. A guitar, a cracked TV, and a beat-up camera. A clunky Nikon with a scratched lens. It's cheap, something he can afford, and it pulls at a memory, high school, a photography class he loved before life got in the way. On impulse, he buys it, the weight of it solid in his hands. That night, he takes it to the water, snaps a shot of the pier cutting into the sea. The photo's blurry, but he keeps it, a piece of something waking up inside him. Maggie catches him fiddling with the camera at work, raises an eyebrow. "Didn't peg you for artsy," she says, leaning on the counter. "Didn't peg you for nosy," he fires back. She grins, then mentions a photography class her friend runs. A weekly thing at a warehouse downtown. "You should go," she says. "Get your head straight." David shrugs, not committing. But the idea sticks. He's not sure he's ready to be anything more than the guy who pours coffee. But the camera feels like a lifeline, something that's his. The class is a leap. He shows up one evening, the warehouse smelling of paint and sawdust. A dozen people with tripods and fancy lenses milling around. David feels out of place with his pawn shop Nikon. But the instructor, Tom, a wiry guy with a gray ponytail, doesn't care. "It's not the gear," Tom says, his voice warm but firm. "It's the story you see." They go out after, shooting the docks under streetlights, and David gets a decent shot. Two workers unloading crates, shadows stretching long. Tom nods at it, says, "You've got an eye. Keep going." It's not much, but it lands like a spark. David's never been good at anything that wasn't for someone else. If David's journey is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories of breaking free. Drop a comment with your city, we'd love to give you a shout out. Big thanks to Marco from Seattle for the support. Keep watching because David's story is far from over. Back at the cafe, David's getting better, fewer spills, faster hands. Maggie notices, teases him less, but her jabs are warmer now, like she's rooting for him. He starts carrying the camera everywhere, snapping shots on his walks. Gulls mid-flight, a rusted anchor half buried in sand. They're not perfect, but they're his and that's enough. He lies awake some nights, the bar's music thumping below, thinking about Ohio. Sophie's silence stings most. He wants to text her to ask if she's okay. But he can't. Not yet. She knew, and that's a wound still raw. One morning, he's at the docks before dawn. The sky a bruise of purple and gold. He sets up the camera, frames a shot of a wave cresting, about to break. The shutter clicks, and the screen lights up with it, sharp, alive. He stares at it, his breath catching. This is him, not the ghost who fixed Robert's messes or signed away his future. This is David, and he's starting to believe it. Portland's rough, unforgiving, but it doesn't demand his soul. Not yet. He packs up, the city stirring around him, and heads to work, the camera slung over his shoulder. He's scared, sure, but he's awake, and that's more than he's been in years. The rusty anchor buzzes with the morning rush, the air thick with the hiss of steam and the clatter of mugs. David Brooks moves behind the counter, his hands steady now, pouring lattes with a rhythm he's earned through weeks of trial and error. 3 months in Portland have carved out a fragile routine. Cafe shifts, late nights with his pawn shop Nikon. A life that's his, not borrowed from someone else's needs. The docs still call him after work, their rough beauty captured in his growing portfolio. Waves crashing, workers hauling nets, gulls caught mid-flight. He's not an artist, not yet, but he's something more than the ghost he was in Ohio. Maggie's at the register, her compass tattoo flashing as she rings up a fisherman in a stained jacket. She's become a fixture, her sharp jabs softer now, laced with a warmth David's starting to trust. Tom's photography class, a weekly ritual, has given him a language for the things he sees, a way to stitch together the pieces of himself that Ohio broke. He's still scared of running out of cash, of failing, of never knowing who he was before the Brooks family claimed him. But he's awake, and that's enough to keep going. The cafe door swings open, and David's world tilts. Robert stands there, gray hair thinner, shoulders hunched, his scowl as familiar as a bruise. The noise of the cafe fades, replaced by the thud of David's pulse. Robert scans the room, locks eyes on him, and marches over, boots heavy on the worn wood floor. Customers glance up, then away, sensing the tension. Maggie raises an eyebrow but stays quiet, her hands still on the register. "David," Robert says, his voice low and rough, like he's calling a dog to heel. "We need to talk." David's jaw tightens. 3 months, and this is why Robert's here, not to check on him, but to demand something. He nods to the back, leading Robert past the lockers to the corner where the fridge's hum offers a thin shield. "What do you want?" David asks, crossing his arms, his voice steady despite the storm inside. Robert shifts, uncomfortable, his eyes flicking to the cafe's bustle. "You took off," he says, "left us in a mess. Hawaii didn't happen, couldn't, without you. The kids, the house, everything fell apart." He rubs his neck, mutters, "I didn't think you'd stay gone. I'm sorry it came out like that about, the adoption thing. Come back. We need you." The words are a hook, baited with guilt. The same old play Robert's run for years. David laughs, short and bitter, the sound surprising even himself. "You need me?" he says, stepping closer. "That's why you're here. Not because you care, but because your trip flopped and the kids are a hassle. You hid who I was my whole life, told everyone I wasn't your son, and now you want me to fix your mess again." Robert bristles, his face reddening. "Watch it, boy," he growls. "We raised you, gave you a home. You don't get to—" David cuts him off, his voice rising. "A home? I paid your bills at 18. Rebuilt your garage. Watched your grandkids so Chris and Sarah could live their lives. And you told me I'm not family. I'm done, Robert. Handle it yourself." The air crackles, heavy with years of unspoken truths. Robert opens his mouth, then shuts it, his fist clenching. For once, he has no comeback. David takes a breath, steps back. "Sit down," he says softer now. "Have a coffee." Robert hesitates, then sinks into a chair by the window, the fight draining from him. David grabs 2 mugs, pours black, no cream the way Robert likes it, and sits across from him. He slides the camera onto the table, flips through shots, peers, waves a worker's silhouette. "This is what I'm doing," he says. "For me." Robert squints at them, silent, then pushes the camera back. "Didn't know you were into that," he mumbles. "You never asked," David replies, his voice steady. They sip in silence, the cafe's hum filling the gap. David doesn't expect Robert to understand, but he wants him to see. See the man he's becoming, not the boy who always said yes. Robert finishes his coffee, stands. "Think about it," he says. "Doors open." David shakes his head. "I'm staying." Robert nods, slow, like he expected it but doesn't like it, then walks out, his boots echoing. Maggie sidles up after, leaning on the counter. "That your old man?" she asks. "Yeah," David says, scrubbing a mug harder than he needs to. "He's a piece of work." She smirks. "Looked like you held your own." The gallery night comes fast. A small exhibit in a converted warehouse. All chipped paint and exposed beams. David's photos hang on the walls, his wave, his worker, an old shot of the Brooks family from the anniversary, faded and creased. Roots and Wings, he called it, a name that stuck after Robert's visit. He paces the space, palms sweaty, feeling like an imposter among the tripods and wine glasses. Maggie's there, dragging friends from class, punching his arm. "Look at you, big shot," she says. Tom works the room, shaking hands, pointing people to David's work. Strangers pause at his photos, nod, whisper to each other. A guy in flannel lingers at the wave shot, says, "Caught the power in that," then moves on. David doesn't know what to say, but it hits him, he made something they see. The night blurs, cheap wine, loud voices, a woman with a clipboard buying his worker shot for $50, his first sale. Maggie toasts him with a plastic cup, says, "Told you you had it." David shrugs, but he's buzzing, a warmth spreading through him. No one from Ohio is here, and that stings, but it doesn't break him. Later, he steps outside, the city humming, waves, horns, a drunk yelling down the block. His phone buzzes. "Sophie, heard you're doing good. They're trying Hawaii again, taking the kids. Weird without you." He stares at it, picturing them. Robert's scowl, Linda's fussing, the kids running wild. They've moved on, and so has he. He types back, "Glad they're going. I'm good here." She sends a thumbs up, and that's it. The exhibit wraps, and David helps stack chairs, the buzz still alive under his skin. Tom claps his shoulder, says, "Your work's got something real. Keep an eye on him, folks." A few clap, and David ducks his head, not used to the attention. He grabs his camera and heads out, the night cool against his skin. Dawn's close, and he walks to the shore, the city thinning until it's just him and the water. The waves are restless, churning under a graying sky. He sets up his tripod, frames a single wave cresting, about to break. The shutter clicks, and the screen lights up, sharp, alive. He sits on the rocks, the light spreading, and feels something settle, not peace but close. The family shot from the gallery lingers in his mind. Robert's scowl, Linda's forced smile, him in the back, half cut off. This part of him, that life, those years he gave. But this, the camera, the city, the wave, is what he's chosen. They're in Hawaii by now or on their way, and he doesn't resent it. They've built something without him, and he's built this. The ties are still there, frayed but not gone. And maybe one day he'll call Sophie, hear her voice. But not yet. The sun breaks over the horizon, and David packs up, boots crunching on gravel. He'll head to the cafe later, sling coffee, show Maggie the shot. Tom mentioned another exhibit, and David's already thinking about what he'll shoot next. Portland stretches ahead, rough and loud, and he walks into it, camera slung over his shoulder. He's not the boy who stayed too long or the man who ran. He's just David, and that's enough. If David's story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys like his. Tell us in the comments, what's the moment you chose yourself? Big shout out to Aisha from Miami for the love. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.